And welcome back to Real Ag Radio here on this Thursday for the Farmer Rapid Fire, brought to you by Corteva. And speaking of Corteva, we are joined right now by Linda Hinz, who's the technical sales agronomist for Northern Saskatchewan, of course, with Corteva. Linda, how are we doing?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Pretty good. Okay, what's seeding progress like in your area?
Say that, everybody's into canola. Some have wrapped up a lot. Traveling yesterday out to the northeast up towards Crooked River, I would say we were well north of 90%. Seeding wrapped up would be my, driving guess. I do think guys were lucky enough to get some rain this past few days. They're probably not to that point, but we're well into canola and well ahead of where we would normally be at this time of year.
A lot of customers you've been talking to, like when I kind of separate, probably unfairly, Saskatchewan kind of north and south, and I always think south always super dry, and the north always has adequate moisture, and they have different problems. But I've been hearing from a few farmers in northern Saskatchewan, we're a little bit more on the drier side this year. Is that fair?
Yes, absolutely. I would say, last week and the south, even in some of the more traditionally dry spots that have been missing out on rains for a number of years, they did pick some up. Certainly not enough to be a drought breaker, but enough to give, some grass and fields, some added and needed moisture. It kind of seemed like Saskatoon was the dividing line. East of Saskatoon, the north, if you took that kind of quadrant in the north and the east from Saskatoon, we're still looking for some rain. But, west and certainly south, definitely south picked up a lot and west did get some as well. So yeah, the northeast, which is normally not in this position, we certainly would take some rain right now. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I hope you get it. Okay, let's talk about some of the challenges. And there's been some issues with trying to get some of that pre-seed burn off done. This is always a tough decision. Okay, what do I do? Do I just get the crop in and deal with that, before emergence of the crop? Like what? Not the best case scenario. Pre-seed always better. What are some of the challenges that you've seen with some of your customers?
Yeah, you wrapped it up exactly. The wind has been pretty horrific this spring, and so that really made it a challenge to get out there in the timeliness that normally people would want to. With the cereals being in the ground now for the most part, if a pre-seed wasn't done, I would say that it's going to likely be too late to do your pre-seed. Doing a pre-seed post-seeding in cereals, for our products, we have a very firm within 48-hour window of seeding that it has to be something like a pre-pass or a Corex, a paradigm pre, etc. Certainly I want your customers to reach out to their retails or to their TMs to talk it through. But, that in my mind is done. That window is closed. From a canola standpoint, certainly a pre-seed should be on before seeding, because once you go into that after seeding window, you've now disturbed your weeds, you've got dirt moving onto the weeds, etc. Most of the chemistry that you're going to be doing is a contact herbicide, and if you don't come in contact with those weeds, it's not going to work as effectively as you had wanted it. And obviously the risk is, pushing it and then hurting an emerging crop, a canola crop, etc. So really, it's unfortunate, but I would really encourage people to leave pre-seed as totally pre-seed and not try and push it.
Well, and one of the things that's changed, Linda, from your and my younger years is we used to have more time post-seeding, right? But now with this equipment, it's like in our knowledge, we are trying to get this crop out of the ground as quickly and evenly as possible. So we just don't have as much time as we previously did, because we've shrunk that plant or seeding date to emergence. We've shrunk that, I think, in a lot of situations with the upgrade of equipment and technology and things like that. So, and as soon as that crop's out of the ground, you're really in trouble, because now you've got a young emerging crop that's having to compete with weeds that are well established. Now you're really up against, you've knocked yourself off the optimum yield curve.
Well, yes, but at the same time, we have chemistry now that certainly is very effective on killing weeds, right? So my confidence in the herbicides that we have available for a in-crop herbicide application is really high.
Yeah.
Certainly hard to kill weeds can be managed with your in-crop herbicide. And, if you've missed your pre-seed window, not getting your herbicide on before you're seeding, well, then you've still got really good options in your in-crop window to come in and take care of the weeds.
You do, but you do get pushed more to the early side of that window of the in crop because you can't afford for those
Correct.
weeds to to really compete with that crop. Sorry, that's what I meant. So, uh,
Yes, yeah, no, and
but
you're correct. But again, there's some really good options, to
absolutely.
go on towards the earlier side as well.
Make sure you go to Corteva's website and check out those options. There's some good ones.
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely. Download our field guide as a shameless plug.
good stuff. And chili. Look, like it's been a little cool. We were hot about 10 days ago, and now we're having a hard time busting north of 15 degrees Celsius. It's been kind of a challenge.
Absolutely. It's been really cold for the people who were lucky enough to get to the lake on the weekend. I'm pretty sure there was some grumpy people wishing the temperature would rise. Interesting. I saw a couple of pictures yesterday just on some cereal leaf damage from the really cold nights. We had a few nights of subsequent below zero and, touching -3. So had some real leaf damage to some early emerging cereals. In other parts of the West, like I saw some pictures out of Manitoba, it wasn't so much, where the leaf was completely frozen at the tips, but it was more cold stress. So, these crops are kind of like us. They're not responding well to the cold. I think it's going to turn around here and we'll get some, with some moisture, if you were lucky to get some moisture, warm weather, things should get going pretty quick here.
Great stuff. Hey, Linda, thanks so much for joining us here today on Real Ag Radio. I do appreciate, love our chats, and all the best to you this growing season. Okay.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.